All right, welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Getting things together here. A little bit of some issues with my OBS this morning, but we should be all right. All my displays reset, so I had to change all my display settings, but we're here. We're live. So welcome in, guys. Welcome in. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. Yeah, no notifications today. I'm not posting in the Discord. I'm not posting anywhere. If you're here, you're here. I think by this point, most people should know, right, that we're live. So we live at the same time every single day. So I'm just gonna, you know, today no notification. We were kind of getting things in order. Usually we'll do notifications, but today I'm not gonna do it because we have a lot to go over this morning, and you guys are already here, so that's all that matters. Anyway, so there's a lot to go over, guys. Things are happening. Things are moving, but levels are leveling, but the market's still consolidating, right? And yesterday's session, we saw the first sign of consolidation, right? You saw us trend down off the opening bell. You saw a little bit of a look above the 696s and a fail back below. A big failure in the market, right? A failure in a supply caused significant downside yesterday's session. But the issue, however, was that we just basically moved to demand and held demand, right? We were selling with such ferocity in the market, right? But then all of a sudden, as we began to approach our demand zone, the market started to hold up here, right? The market held up, and now the market's back at the same supply it was yesterday. So we have a very clear range today, and we are going to talk about this range. Okay, so we're going to go over this. There's a lot to talk about. We have some things to go over. Obviously, the ES chart, the same thing. The ES chart, you see the supply above us is 7,000 ES, still as a leg of supply. We have demand below, which the market bounced off yesterday's session. And the QQQ, the thesis that the bear market, the thesis of us failing yesterday was perfect, right? The market basically sold off into supply. Now, the question is, what do we do as we tap supply for the second time, right? And that is what's happening this morning. I would argue actually a third time is what's happening. This is the third tap of supply this morning. So we'll talk about what's happening here, guys, on the Qs chart. QQQ, obviously very, very important today. 618, 619, huge level. We'll go over some other names like Amazon. Amazon, I believe, will play catch up long. So we'll talk about this chart today. We'll go over AMD. We'll go over Nvidia, right? Some levels here in AMD. We have one was it 239? No, sorry, 219 on AMD. We have a Nvidia 194.50, 194. We have some Apple charts. Apple, insane move, but yet again sold off in a supply. So let's talk about this today. Where does Apple go? Right, you saw signs again of rejections off these highs. You see that the market, Apple is unable to move higher. And so what does that mean today? Well, let's watch levels, right? We'll watch 272, watch 268, watch 278, right? We'll go over Meta as well. Meta, obviously a big one yesterday, but faded after news came out. So 680 still rejecting, 680 still as technical supply, and 680 must build for serious continuation. Anyways, that is what's on the docket for today. Let's jump right into it. People are saying, Brett, you didn't post in the chat. Guys, you guys know I'm live every single day at the same time, right? Not posting one day should be okay, right? You guys know, you guys are all here. That's all that matters, right? They'll figure it out. They'll find where we are eventually. They should figure it out. Okay. So on the econ side for this morning, the biggest thing that we have is not today. It's actually tomorrow, right? Today we have some jobless claims, existing home sales. You have some things happening at 10:30. But what's really the central focus on everyone's mind this morning is going to be CPI tomorrow, right? CPI tomorrow morning is incredibly important because if you guys recall, we had PPI, or the producer price index, about 2 weeks ago. Producer price index, PPI, measures inflation for producers. The CPI measures inflation for consumers. Now, we have not had CPI data in, as mentioned, some time now, right? And so this data, the market will react to this, So let's be aware of that, right? Tomorrow morning, if you are swinging, okay, if you're swinging full port SPX, right, 1 DTEs with a Friday expiration, you are asking for some heart palpitations in the morning. You're asking for a long night. You're asking for a little insomnia, right? Don't do it to yourself. Trust me, I've been there, right? I've been there before. I've swung crazy positions. I've held crazy positions, either intentional or accidental, right? And I'll tell you this, the money made through this is not worth the mental burnout, right? This is something that you guys will begin to realize over time, the longer you trade, and many of you guys probably already know this. The mental burnout in trading is real, right? And if you focus on high quality setups and what works for you, and not the quick and easy money, not the quick and gambling money, right? You'll do better in the long run. Why? Because you have the mental capacity to take the good trades in the session ahead of you. Trust me, if you are red on a Friday CPI at 8:30 in the morning, you're gonna have a hard time making that back at 9:30 a.m. when the market opens, right? Again, just my 2 cents. On the earnings docket, you can see that we have some names reporting here in the pre-market session. You have a little bit of, you have Crocs, CROX. I don't know if anyone trades Crocs anymore. Yesterday, you had AppLovin, you had Cisco. CSCO sold off yesterday pretty aggressively. CSCO sold off yesterday fairly aggressively. You saw this this big sell in the afternoon session, and it's tough, right? These tech names, these software names, they are not doing well. They're still not doing well. And it's important to recognize that, right? Look at HubSpot, right? Look at all these names. What's CRM doing? CRM is bouncing back. But you can see a lot of these names are still in the gutter, right? Software is still in the gutter. Tech is and that's holding back tech, right? You're seeing some tech weakness. I think that could be possibly the reason why. Anyways, besides that, Thursday in the after hours, you had Coinbase as well. So Coinbase, be aware of that. That's going to be a big one. Pins, PANS, Rivian, RVN, Toast, TOST, DKNG, DraftKings, AMAT. So some big things happening in the after hour session. And then obviously tomorrow morning, we have Moderna. And obviously, of course, the biggest thing is our CPI data tomorrow morning, right? That being said, let's dive into our charts. Whoa. Gunny Trades hit over 100% Qs yesterday from watching the channel. Let's get this giveaway. That's awesome, man. Seriously. Gunny Trades, everybody, big shout out to Gunny. He's an awesome futures trader, and he is single-handedly kicking off this the February giveaway. Well, we'll call it. We'll probably do the next giveaway in March, but it's single-handedly kicking off this giveaway. So thank you very much. That is awesome, man. Much appreciated to you. By the way, there's still a few of you guys who have not reached out to me about the giveaway, so make sure you do that. I only have three out of the five that have reached out so far. So 2 of you guys are missing. You guys are MIA. Remember, if you guys don't reach out to me by today, I will be giving it away on Friday to the next 2 people that I see. Okay, so let's dive into it, guys. Let's dive into it. Okay, on the SPY chart, are you guys ready? Is everyone ready? I feel like there's some lingering. People are lingering. What's going on in there? Who are the 3 out of the 5? To be honest with you, I don't know. But go back to the session last week. I think it was on Thursday. We announced it. So if you reached out to me on Instagram, you guys are good. So there's a few of you already who are already DM'd. But there's 2 that are missing. They're fighting in the chat. Let's get it. Yeah, they're fighting. They are fighting. I see drama. I see things festering in the chat. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Gunny, by the way. Seriously, much appreciated. You are a gentleman. Seriously, much appreciated. That is very kind of you. Okay. So, post the link in HD. Guys, they'll find it. They'll find us. They'll find it. They know where we are. They'll find us eventually. I wasn't doing it. I didn't not post it intentionally. I was running through some technical issues this morning on my OBS. And I just wanted to get started, just to be honest, right? I'm not intentionally posting it for whatever reason, right? I had a hard time getting OBS started. I was dealing with some display issues. And if I go and post it and all these things, it's going to take extra time. So let's talk about the SPY chart. On the SPY chart, by the way, if you're not in Honey Drip, link is in the description. That's the only thing I'm going to say. If you guys are not in Honey Drip, link is in the description down below. Join us. We're there every single day. Okay, on the SPY chart, 696 is your key resistance. This was your level, okay? Your level yesterday was 696, and this was possibly the best fade yesterday, right? And where was the fade? actually, Mike took this short, and I think this was possibly the best short of the session. I wasn't trading the opening bell yesterday. I was dealing with some stuff in the. I was dealing with some construction stuff at my house, so I was not even at here during their open bell. But this was probably the best short of the session. Look at this, a big breakdown of 696, and look at this beautiful retest. Two little bar play here and retest short down lower. This was your best short. Where would you have gotten filled here? In my opinion, the short play was right here, right? Let's go over it. It was that 945, 950, 945 candle. A stop loss would have been above that candle high. An entry at that body, so right over here at 695.60. So your risk was about 71 cents. And your target, right, your low of day target was, I would probably argue 693. So you're basically risking, 71 cents, 70 cents for a potential reward of $3, right? Honestly, a very, very good trade here. Very, very good trade. And it ended up selling off even more into 690. And you look at where the selling stopped yesterday. The selling stopped yesterday around 690. And why is 690 so important? Well, 690 is so important because it is the highs of Friday session. It's the high of Friday. It's the breakout of Monday. It's the Wednesday's highs. And the one thing I want you guys to recognize is that this S&P 500 rejected off supply, right? SPY rejected off supply, and we knew supply was here. But the problem still is that SPY is still bullish, right? Q's bearish, different story here. But the narrative on SPY is still bullish. And why is the narrative on SPY being bullish? Why is that the case? Well, because it's still forming higher lows, right? You have a low here, you have a higher low here. And what did we just form today or yesterday's session on February 11th? Well, on February 11th, we formed another higher low. And so our bias here on SPY has now become so clear. It is 690. If we hold 690, we are sustaining bull trend, in which case we can look for longs here, we can look for longs there, and continuation upside plays. If we fail below 690, okay, if we fail below 690, then we can look for shorts and the move down into 685, which would also be 6,900 ES, which would be a top watch for shorts. This is your level, right? 690 fails, downside of 685. Our bull bear pivot this morning, in my opinion, I think our bull bear pivot should logically be Wednesday's lows, right? If you see us get a little bit of a break and retest under Wednesday's lows, short it, stop above, downside 685. If we see us maintaining 690 today, you can't really short that, right? Likewise, longs back at 696, if you can break above it, yes, upside. Where do we go to? Again, the same thesis, 698.30. But here's the thing, you don't want to be long into 696. You saw what happened yesterday. You got curb stomped. Longs got curb stomped into 696. Don't get curb stomped today, right? If we're in supply, just sit back, sit patient. Don't go crazy. For me, I don't really want to short the highs today. I'm not really a fan of shorting these highs today because we've consolidated once and twice and three times. But I sure as hell do not want to be long there either. That's a super important idea, right? Just because I don't want to be long somewhere, it does not mean I want to short it either. There are some levels where it's just become too tapped out, right? And once it's become too tapped out, you just don't really know what's going to happen yet. And so you have to wait for the market to tell you what it's going to do. And when it does it, you react to it. That's all it was. In yesterday's session, it was the 945 candle that showed it to you. Today's session, it could be the same 945 candle. Let's see. Do we see a break and hold above the 696s today? If we do, upside, or do we see us fail again, see a pullback to 690, and the question mark then becomes, what do we do at 690? Do we start defending 690? If it does start defending, that's your best possible long. If you lose 690, we short it and look for a move into 685. That, in my opinion, is how we trade the SPY chart today. And if you jump over to ES, it's the same thing, right? ES's chart is bullish. Let's look at the chart, right? This is a bullish chart in resistance, right? That's what's happening here. A bull chart in resistance. What we've done yesterday is we formed a higher low. The higher low was formed over here at 69.32. If we are above 69.32, we are maintaining strong. If we can break above the orange band here, right? And forgive me, my levels are all over the place here in ES's chart. I have so many levels here, but the reason why was because we have a lot of resistance above us. But you can see 7,000 ES breaks, you know where we're going. We're going into the landmines, the landmines, the landmines, and then ultimately back to the end of the journey here at 70-40, right? 70-40 being your eventual target on the S&P 500, right? On the ES chart. So what does that mean for today? It means this, right? You don't want to be a rhino. You don't want to be a hammerhead shark longing back into resistance like this, because this is not a logical long. This is not where you want to be long in the market, right? You don't want to be long here. Where you want to be long is maybe some sort of pullback long to demand or a break and hold above the supply zone. If that happens, this is a long side move. If you see us fail today under yesterday's lows, then we're going into 6,900 ES, which is your target for shorts. And you can look for that little downside move here. How much room is there? There's about 32 points of downside room here. About 32 points of downside room. And of course, we're going back into the ES level, the psych level, 6,900 ES. So I would say we have some pretty good clarity here on the SPY chart. It is bullish, but in resistance. That is the theme of this morning here on the SPY and ES chart. Okay. On the Qs, QQQ is bearish in resistance. It's a complete different chart. And if you look at this, some people will say, Brett, Qs formed a higher low yesterday. Would you consider that to be a potential hold in the market? My answer to you is no. I do not consider this to be a hold yesterday. Obviously it held, okay? Obviously it held. But I don't consider this to be a bull trend. Why? Because when you look at this chart from a 15-minute time frame, from an hourly time frame, it still looks like the larger time frame is prevailing as a downtrend with lower highs, and a series of equal highs. So what does this mean today? Well, it means one thing. It means if we do get back above the 619s, then yes, we are now bull trending, and we would view this as a higher low. That's what we would do, right? But as of right now, I'm not viewing it that way. I'm viewing this as a downtrend. I'm viewing this as a chart that I don't want to be long on, at least until we get back above 619, right? That's super important. I don't want to be long in Qs until we're at least back above 619, because it's still resistance. In fact, if I see failures on Qs, a failure on Qs would constitute a short, right? That's really important. A failure in Qs for me would constitute a short at the 619 area, which happened yesterday. You can see it happened around 618, right? 617.60. Today's session, it's the same thing. If we do see us fail today, I'll look for shorts here. Likewise, if we do break out, then obviously we're breaking out, right? And remember, I said one thing. I said, guys, one of these ETFs is lying, right? It's either the Q's lying or the SPY lying. Yesterday's session, SPY lied, right? And QQQ told us the real story, right? Qs was bearish, SPY was bullish, and the QQQ told us what was going to happen, right? Now, in today's session, Q's still bearish, SPY is still bullish. What happens today, right? Let's see what happens with into our opening bell session, right? On the IWM, I think one of the most interesting things yesterday was the IWM chart. Something that startled probably everybody, right? The IWM rejected off supply in such an aggressive manner, right? You can see that the 268 supply was important, but what did I say yesterday? I said two things. I said the IWM is bullish. I said the IWM is bullish as long as we hold 265, and your top watch would be, hey, do we break above 268? If we do, look for longs. Don't be long in 268, but if you pull back to 265, this is a long. And look at what happened in 265 yesterday. It broke through like butter. It broke through like butter, right? This basically broke through like melted butter. Now, granted, was there a long here? Not a single candle presented a long here, right? So before Tom, Dick, and Harry come out and say, Brett, you told us all the no, yeah, I did say that, right? But look at the chart. Is there any candle here that constitutes a long? Is there any pin bar? Any sign of defense here at the 265s, right? In fact, I would say the better trade that happened yesterday's session was the short under 265. This was where things became interesting. Why am I saying that? Because look at the pin bars forming here, right? And this is why reading price action is key, right? Levels are 65% of the battle levels. The other 35%, you could even argue that 50%, right, is, hey, how does the market respond to these levels? You can see, how did the market respond to 265? It didn't respond. In fact, it just slammed right through the level. Therefore, giving you a nice little breakdown, a short, and a retest move down lower. Now, that was probably the best trade yesterday in the IWM. Now, this morning, what's happening here? This morning on the IWM, you have a classic short trap, right? What does that mean? It means basically, by the way, nobody told me, but my head is the size of the moon right now. Hold on a second. There you go. There. So what does this mean for today's session? It means that this morning we are basically bullish because we just recaptured 265. Yesterday's session we broke beneath 265 and we saw a upside move here above 265, causing us to basically trap all the shorts. This is interesting because this it should make you more bullish right now, right? Assuming we maintain 265 today and we actually build above 268, this could be a nice squeeze play today for an upside move, right? Again, it's asking for a lot, right? It is asking for a lot, but I can see this happening, right? The reason why is because you have now a case where a lot of these shorts under 265 are underwater here in this pre-market session, because think about it from their perspective, right? From their perspective, they were shorting a logical failure point, right? And even into close, it didn't look like it was going to stop them out, right? Look at this. It actually gave them a little bit of confirmation, a little bit of reassurance in the close. You see that? You see this right here? See this little, oh, okay, well, we're still okay in the short side move. Then all of a sudden here at 4 a.m. in the morning, bing, bop, boom, we're all the way back in sky high right now. And now all those shorts that were shorting yesterday, they're sitting here, right? Sweating on their palms a little bit. And what are they going to do? At opening bell, they're going to stop out. At opening bell, they're going to stop out of the shorts, hence buying back shares. Stock squeezes higher, right? So I think that there is a potential IWM squeeze off the opening bell today. Let's see what happens though, right? Again, right? I'm telling you guys what I'm thinking. And the thing is, when I tell you what I'm thinking, I could obviously be wrong about this too, but I believe that as long as we are sustaining 265, we are bullish here, right? Where's your actual long entry? I would say back above 268 though. If we can clear 268, this is where things become frothy, things become interesting, and you can look for long side moves, right? So again, that's a thesis. This is an idea, right? Let's see if it actually turns out to be a potential play. And where does it become a play? Above yesterday's highs, right? Above Wednesday's highs is where things become a long entry, right? Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. I want to move on to the next ticker. So let's go over some other names, guys. I know we're running late today, so we're actually very late to the show because you guys know I was having some issues this morning. So I need to jump into tickers as fast as possible. AMD chart. On the AMD chart, it's all about 219, guys. 219 failures yesterday. I mean, I hopefully you guys were aware of this, right? But I mentioned yesterday's chart that AMD was bearish as long as we were under 217. And you can see, again, basically a failure, right? Look at this. It closed above with a horrible pin bar, right? Technically did close above 217 though, right? Actually, if you look at this, we did close above supply yesterday. 217 was our supply yesterday. We closed above it, but a very horrific pin bar formed here. We then failed pretty aggressively and ended up shorting this all the way to 2 and 9. So I didn't short this, but again, this was a short off of supply. Now this morning, I would no longer be short AMD, right? The reason why I'm saying that is because this level has been tapped out now. It's tapped once, it's tapped twice, it's tapped 3 times. This morning, even though 219 is still supply, I would argue that Rich, DM me again, man, because I don't think I got your DM. Send me a DM on Instagram as well, because I don't think I got your DM. But don't worry, we'll get it resolved, right? So 219 is your supply this morning. If we can break above 219, then we'll see upside, right? This is still supply. Let's not be long into supply. But if 219 can break out, what do we have here on this chart? There is a gap to play with, right? Look at this chart for a second. Above 219 on AMD, there is a gap fill, right? You can see this. You see this gap fill between 219 and really it's 219 all the way into 243. So let's watch AMD. If AMD can break above 219, there is a potential upside play here. As of right now, though, we're still under a key level of supply. If you want to look for shorts, the only short would be under yesterday's lows, under 209, under 210 really, right? 209 is your level. So if I'm trading this on a break and retest, I'm looking for either a break and retest long entry here above 219 for upside into 230 plus, which would be a gap fill play. Or, and again, this is not going to be an easy trade. I would expect some sort of little bit of this, right? A little bit of drama here. Why? Because gap fill levels always present drama, right? But again, this would be a long. And the second trade I'd watch is going to be under 209, right? Under 209, less dramatic downside movement in 194, right? That would be a short side trade. Again, I don't want to trade reversion trades anymore off of these highs and lows. Only continuation trades under the lows or above the highs. Nvidia, same idea on Nvidia, okay? 190 held yesterday, and 190 was what basically caused the market to bounce. Nvidia is still bullish, right? I mean, Nvidia is still maintaining bullish despite an overall Q's bearish sentiment, right? And the one thing I'd look for on this chart today's session would be a break above the Monday's highs. So where's Monday's highs? Barring this crazy candle here, this candle right here, this Monday candle right here, this is not a real candle. This is known as a misprint, right? A misprint is just bad data, right? It's just bad data. So if I'm looking for a trade here on the Nvidia chart, it's above the Monday's highs, barring the bad data candle. And if you want to know, if you want to confirm it's a bad data candle, look at the candle, right? This is it's horrible when they do this, right? It makes the charts look terrible when they do this. But yeah, I mean, it's terrible. It is absolutely terrible. The Chronicles didn't buy, I didn't use well, but let me see. I think I saw your DM actually, so I think you're okay. But if you two are the only that are missing, then just send me a few DMs if possible. Just spam me a little bit because then I'll see it, right? Okay, so obviously, right, this candle over here is a misprint. It's not real candle. The candle, the breakout today on Nvidia, the only breakout I have here is going to be if it can break above, if it can sustain above 194. If the Nvidia sustains above 194, then there's a breakout potential. But that's not the only thing I'm watching. I'm watching two things today. I'm watching, just like AMD's bilateral, right? AMD bilateral, meaning it can go, bidirectional is, bilateral is a terrible word. Bidirectional is a better word, right? If it can break above 194, this is your long entry, right? Again, upside. If it can break below 190, then downside into 186. That's where this is going to, right? So the point that I'm trying to say here is that I'm watching both directions here on Nvidia, either above the highs or below lows. Right now, obviously because it looks strong here in the pre-market, it looks strong, right? So 190, 194 breakout. Let's look for longs. Let's move on, guys. We have a few more tickers to go over. Apple chart. On the Apple chart, yeah, guys, don't spam all. If you didn't win the giveaway, don't spam me. That's very important. Only for the ones that know. Okay. All right. So Apple chart. Apple also very interesting because Apple broke out yesterday, but then this morning it's not strong, right? What's going on with Apple? Why is Apple selling off this morning? What was that Apple sell off over here? Right? What was this crazy sell off over here? Apple lost its bearings yesterday, and if you look at which chart, if you look at IWM as a short trap, right? This is a short trap. Well, then what would you call Apple? A long trap, right? So in complete inverse here, you have the Apple and IWM showing exactly different warning signs. And so I don't like this for a long right now, as long as we are under 278. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that I am mostly bear bias right now. And in fact, I'm looking mostly for a breakdown in 272 for shorts. If it can break below 272, I'm looking for shorts. If we clear back below 278, then obviously the bear bias is wrong. The bear thesis is wrong. It's incorrect, and we'll just go our separate ways. But for me this morning, I'm looking for shorts under 272. If we break below 272, downside into 268, and this again would be a big demand to go long off of, right? So under these lows, right? Under these lows for a downside move. But again, the closer we get to demand here, the more likely we do a little bit of this, right? So that's what I'm expecting here on the Apple chart, right? Again, obviously 278 is still resistance. Let's see what happens there. If we just build above this resistance, then we're back into a bull trend. But this would be a bit far-fetched for me today's session, okay? Let's move on. Let's go over a few more tickers, guys. We have to go fast. Amazon bullish. If Amazon is weaker this morning too, by the way, but I like it above 212. If it can clear 212, I'm looking for longs. 206 is a smaller level. 206 reclaims. Longs back at 212. If 212 reclaims, it's a gap fill play, right? So I'm watching for two trades today at 206 reclaim. If 206 reclaims, I'm looking for longs back into the highs. Okay. If 212 reclaims, that's where everyone chases it. Everyone goes long because we have the gap fill above us, right? The gap fill above us into 220. The Chronicles of the Maya. I won the giveaway for February, so I'm going to spam your IG this morning. And that's crazy. That's very kind of you. Thank you for supporting. Yes, I will make sure you're sorted, but that is very kind of you. Thank you very much. Okay, Tesla. On the Tesla chart, Tesla's bullish, right? 427 maintaining. I mean, this is pretty gnarly too, right? 427 bullish. As long as we're above 427, we're bullish today. That's all I have today here on this chart. Netflix is a little bit weak this morning. Netflix is sub 180 or sub 80, right? Netflix has to reclaim 80 for any longs to work out, right? If you guys remember yesterday's session, I spoke about that weak daily candle. That weak daily candle I spoke about on Tuesday. was kind of foreshadowing Wednesday's price action. Remember I mentioned that? I said, guys, week Tuesday candle, this Wednesday candle does not look anything better, right? It looks like we might see a breakdown of lows here, right? I think we, if I were completely unbiased here, I'm long Netflix, right? I have longs in Netflix. Personally, I have a big equity position in Netflix. But I see this, right? Look at the chart. Let's not be unbiased here just because we are long on something. Look at this chart. Pin bar, followed by a continuation candle into lows. We likely break this low. We likely break 79, right? Why? Because we have a pin bar and a big red candle continuation forming a downside trend. Where do we go to? Probably 77, right? I would argue that's where we're going to. So again, let's see what happens here on this chart. I'm bullish transparently, but I am not being unbiased. I'm just showing you what I think is going to happen, okay? And I'm not going to sell this because I'm still bullish long term. That's just my view, right? Okay, I think that's where we're going to end it, guys. Thank you all for joining in. Thank you all for finding me today. I appreciate you guys all finding me today. I know that I didn't post in the chat, so I apologize for that. But we're back locked in, and I'll see you guys all on the live. If you do not live trade with us, I'll see you all in the chat. The description's down below. Have a happy and safe trading session. Regardless, I'll see you all tomorrow morning on Friday. Goodbye, guys.